Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. We have the crank back, but it's not good. In fact, it's really bad. So yeah, we have the camshafts and the crank back from the machine shop, and also I've got a new t-shirt, Driveway Developments. So if you'd like to pick yourself up a t-shirt like this, I've got a few other designs I've made as well. Check out the link in the description. And I only need to sell about 1,000 to cover the cost of this engine rebuild, so yeah, that's not going to happen, is it? But any support is greatly appreciated. So the crank is not good news. I've got to give credit to the machine shop before I start off. Very good communications. They didn't go straight ahead and do loads of work, which I'd actually asked them to do. As soon as they saw there might be a problem, they were straight on the phone, kept me updated, and very reasonable in their price as well. So that's South Wales Pistons. No complaints, really happy with the service. But we can't help what's gone wrong with the crankshaft. Now I'll put a couple of pictures over the screen now. These are actually the pictures they sent me on WhatsApp. The journal where the conrod spun a bearing, unfortunately when they're doing their pre-grind checks, as any good machine shop will do, they spotted a hairline crack. Now I actually instructed them to continue with the regrind on that particular journal because I thought maybe if it's not a deep crack, maybe they could sort of take it out with the regrind. Well, they've grinded the journal to the maximum allowable by Toyota on this crank, and unfortunately the crank still has a crack that's visible. They've pressure tested the oil ways. They said there's no leak, no loss of pressure, so the crack is not very deep. But due to its location, I'm personally not happy to reuse this crank. Now, you tell me, what would you do? Would you reuse this crank? The guy at the machine shop actually said they get this stuff quite common. I suppose they see a lot of crankshafts. And he said, most of his customers, they'll continue anyway, and he never hears anything negative back. But he wasn't pressuring me either way. Now, I don't profess to be an expert. I'm just a DIY car enthusiast, basically, trying to save a bit of money by doing my own work. So I thought I'll take his advice at first, but then I thought, no, what I'll do is I'll contact some more experienced people who know a bit more than I do. So my first message was to Ant at Indigo GT. He knows his stuff and he's always happy to help when I'm working on my cars. And basically he said if that crank entered his workshop at Indigo GT, there's no way he would use that. He wants a perfect crank or nothing. So yeah, that's one specialist saying don't use the crank. I spoke to Paul at TCB. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he basically said don't use it, something along those lines. So that's two specialists saying they wouldn't use it in the same situation as me. But the guy at the machine shop seems to think it's acceptable. Personally, I'm not willing to use it. Let's take a look at the crank now, up close with the camera, and also the camshafts. Here we have the cams, which have been polished. They're not perfect, but they're pretty flat. I can't feel any ridges. Without a regrind, that's as good as they're going to be. But I'm really happy with how they've turned out, but not so happy with the crank. Now, they did this one, and they didn't continue the work on the rest of the journals. There's no point paying to have them done. So let's have a look. If I can, I'll get you in here. Aha, there we have it. And there's the crack. That is it. That is all it is. I can't even feel it. Like if I rub my fingernail on it, there's a rule of thumb with engines and machine work. If you can feel it with your fingernail, then it's too deep. Well, I cannot feel it, but I can see it, and it's definitely there. So, yeah, a bit disappointing that is. So, I don't really know what to do. I'm up a creek without a paddle, as they say. I don't really know what to do from here. Hopefully Paul at TCB is going to work his magic and he's going to sort me out with an awesome deal on a crank. But just in case he can't get his hands on a crank, what would you suggest I do in this situation? So yeah, that's an update really, and any help you can give me in the comments, I really do appreciate it. And if you like this t-shirt, remember to check in the description for a link to the shop. Cheers guys.